So a federal red flag law has just passed the House with the help of some Republicans. So let's talk about this. But real quick before we jump into this video, I want to thank one of the main supporters of the channel, which is Route 66 June Sports Park down in San Bernardino. So if you guys came out to the Armed in May event, you know how amazing that range is, how amazing that staff is. So if you're in the LA area, in the Southern California area, I highly recommend you check out Route 66 June Sports Park. And thank you again, Route 66, for supporting this channel. Also, I want to let you know that this content is powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. So head on over to joinfbc.org to help support the Second Amendment cause. Thank you again, Firearms Policy Coalition, for supporting this channel. So like I said in the intro, a federal red flag law has just passed the House, and 29 Republicans helped by voting in favor of it. The bill we are going to be talking about in this video is H.R. 1620, or the Violence Against Women Act, Reauthorization Act of 2021, sponsored by Sheila Jackson Lee out of Texas. This bill isn't anything new, it's a reauthorization bill, but often what we see is new things are crammed into bills like this. This is no different from the National Defense Bill we talked about in a prior video that was passed in the House with a military court red flag language that was included in it. And again, that one was really concerning, but that was limited to military courts. This is a federal mechanism. Now, this bill actually has already passed the House and will be going to the Senate, where there is a 50-50 split between Republicans and Democrats. And essentially, Kamala Harris will be the tiebreaker. And also, if any of the Senate Republicans cross the line like we saw in the House, this bill could have a chance of getting passed. So this is definitely something that is concerning, and we should be contacting our local representatives in the House and in the Senate to let them know that we do not support this bill. So let's take a look at what this bill will do as far as gun control and red flag laws. Under Section 102, more money will be given through grants to develop laws, policies, and procedures with the purpose of enforcing court orders prohibiting possession of and mandating the recovery of firearms from people hit with domestic violence restraining orders or other state equivalents. Section 801 of this bill creates language that will expand prohibitions on people convicted of misdemeanor crimes against dating partners from possessing firearms. So this applies not just to spouses, but it also applies to other significant others. And Section 802 prohibits claim stalkers or individuals who are subject to court orders from possessing firearms as well. Now, this might sound good on the surface. However, as we've seen in the legal system all the time, just because someone gets charged with a domestic violence doesn't mean that it's 100% legitimate. So for example, the state of California's domestic battery language is very, very broad. And it's so broad that all it requires is some form of physical contact performed in what is called anger or disrespect. So for example, you can get in an argument maybe with a spouse, try to leave your house, maybe your spouse is blocking the door, and in trying to get out of the house, you kind of bump into them trying to exit the door because they're blocking the door. Well, technically under California law, that is domestic battery, and you could be subject to this scheme here, this domestic violence red flag law. Also, a big issue with these types of laws is that if they really cared about the person, they would focus primarily on the person and focus primarily on removing the alleged harmful person from that environment, rather than focusing on going into the home and removing the item that is so dangerous. But the reality is removing that item doesn't actually save or protect the other individual from the harmful or violent person, because that harmful or violent person is remaining in the home. Also in this bill is a notice mechanism that can be sent to the ATF or other local agencies. So under Section 1201, this bill also states that anytime a background check signals that a person is deemed to not be able to be in possession of a firearm, but then time lapses for the agency to respond, the FBI to respond to that system, to the background check saying that this person is prohibited, which results in the person then being able to have the firearms transferred to them because the FBI does not respond within the allocated amount of time. Well, this bill would require in those instances for that information to be sent to the ATF or other local agencies, likely so that the agency can go investigate that person. Now, there are two issues with this. The first one is that just because the background check flags someone to be prohibited or says that there's an error with their background check doesn't mean it's actually correct. We see all the time that the system has errors and improperly flags people to be prohibited. Now, the second issue is that this backstop is created for the FBI to respond within a certain amount of time. If the FBI did not respond within the certain amount of time, that is on them. And if the gun store transfers that firearm to the person because the FBI hasn't responded, that is not the gun store's fault and that is not that person's fault either. The FBI is simply just not doing their job, and these people are within their legal rights to transfer that firearm and to be in possession of that firearm because the FBI did not respond. However, this bill would create a situation where the ATF can go investigate someone after the fact when everything was done appropriately. This bill then goes on in Section 202 to give local agencies the authority to receive the information on those purchasers. So 201 is the mechanism, 202 is giving those agencies the authority to receive that information. And finally, under Section 203, which is a little bit more concerning at large to just us in the US, is the fact that 203 is going to allow for the deputization of various state, tribal, and other law enforcement agents as ATF agents. So they're going to become deputy ATF agents, and then the ATF can use them as their own agents to implement various things. Now, here's a list of the 29 Republicans who voted in favor of passing this bill. And excuse me, I'm gonna look off to my computer over here just so I can get you all the names. Balderston out of Ohio, Bice out of Oklahoma, Bost out of Illinois, Carter out of Texas, Cole out of Oklahoma, Davis out of Illinois, Diaz-Balart out of Florida, Fitzpatrick out of Pennsylvania, Jimenez out of Florida, Gonzalez out of Ohio, Issa out of California, Jacobs out of New York, Joyce out of Ohio, Cato out of New York, Kim out of California, Maliokakis out of New York, McCall out of Texas, Maher out of Michigan, Miller Meeks out of Iowa, Mullen out of Oklahoma, Reed out of New York, Simpson out of Idaho, Stauber out of Minnesota, Style out of Wisconsin, Stevers out of Ohio, Upton out of Michigan, Valadeo out of California, Van Drew out of New Jersey, and Young out of Alaska. So those are those 29 Republicans who voted in favor of passing this bill. So if that is one of your representatives, let them know that you do not agree with this and that them voting in favor of this bill. So just for example, on that list was David Valadeo, who is actually one of the Republicans and is actually my local representative. And so I will be reaching out to him, letting him know that he is failing firearms owners and is helping in violations of Second Amendment rights by voting in favor of these types of bills. Now, beyond that, I would recommend you reach out to your representatives in the Senate as well and let them know that you do not support this bill because this one could have legs. This language could get snuck in with this act. And with the current makeup of the Senate, it's unclear what could happen. It is going to be tight. Maybe the likelihood is that this won't pass, but still we don't need to be taking any chances. Reach out to your representatives and let them know that you do not agree with this language in this bill. Now, also, if you want to learn more about this topic, I would highly recommend you go check out Carrie from Stiletto and Shotguns over on Instagram. And she has other social media sites, but Stiletto and Shotguns, I would highly recommend you check that out. She does an amazing job talking about these issues and these types of laws. And really, I think if you want to learn more about these topics, she would be your go-to person. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment down below and I'll try to answer the best of my ability. Also, if you like this video and like support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm or fuel Al Gore's rhythm. It signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos in this type of two-way news, and then it helps push it to more people. So thank you so much to everybody who's liked, commented, subscribed, who's hit the notification bell. You guys are definitely impacting these videos. You're impacting this channel and helping to spread the word about the Second Amendment. So thank you so much for doing that. And if you don't have a comment in mind, just comment down below. Let your comment to fuel the algorithm, and I really appreciate that. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and never forget to stay with Built Bar Arms Scholars and station we maintain Bar Arms Scholars.